Welcome to the Anime Bucket Quest! Let's get started!
Welcome to Anime Bucket Quest. I'm your host, the franchise, and I'm so glad you're joining me on this journey. See, a few weeks ago, I bought this massive anime bucket list poster online. It had 100 classic, essential, and sometimes forgotten anime that people say you have to watch before you die. I thought, why not watch them all? And more importantly, do I agree with this list? So, pretty much, that's the podcast. I take one anime from the list, watch it, give it an in-depth review. Did it deserve a spot? Is it still a masterpiece for our very first quest? We're checking off number 1, the 2005 classic from Kyoto Animation, the one and only Air. Kyoto Animation. KyoAni 2005, based on a light novel, visual novel by Key, who was also the creator of Clannad and also Canon. This is Kyoto Anime's calling card for emotional, high-quality production. So, they try to match the same visual aspect of the anime to the visual novel source. So basically, what's the setup of this story? We're introduced to the character named Yukito Kunisaki, the traveling puppeteer, and his family's generational quest to find the, quote, girl in the sky. He meets Misuzu Kamio in a sleepy summer town, and his quest begins to take shape. Before we dive deep, let me give you a background to myself. If this is your first time listening to me, I'll let you know I'm about 40. I've been watching anime since the late 90s. My first aspect into anime was pretty much watching in Mexico with my grandfather, but of course, it was done in Spanish. That's how I fell in love. I saw Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Guardians of Jaguares de la Zodiac, also known as Saint Seiya, Captain Tsubasa, which was known as Super Campeones Mexico. So I fell in love with this animation. I thought, oh, this was American made. I did not realize it was Japanese. So, story cut to right now. I'm still watching anime. And I've been going to anime conventions, I've been collecting anime merch. Now that's become widely popular, it's become mainstream. So like I said, this is why I decided to do an anime-centric podcast, but also inspired by bucket lists. So, give you a background on the anime, let's go ahead and dive deep to the rest of the anime Air. So, we're talking about Misuzu's tragedy. When we meet Misuzu, she's kind of sweet, a little bit clumsy, her nature, her famous Gao sound that she does every so often in the anime, and the tragedy of her illness. Pretty much, when you watch this anime, you're thinking, oh, she looks like a normal, healthy girl. But unfortunately, it's not like a physical kind of sickness, but when you learn, it's an actual aging curse that prevents her from forming a bond with anyone she loves, without both of them suffering. So pretty much, it affects like her memories. She starts to forget to the point, even affects her later on, like, physically, where she couldn't even walk. It's very emotional. It's like you want to root for her and you feel so bad because she's dealing with this illness. And one of the quotes that I love that she says in the anime is, I always thought if I could make a friend, maybe my summer will never end. That's a really good quote. Because like I said, it's one of those, like, you're in town for the summers. Like, it's like the town itself, it's like one of those, like, kind of like beachside towns. Very small. Everyone knows each other. So, pretty much, she decides to have this relationship with her aunt, who is Haruko Kamio. So she ends up taking, the guardianship of her from her parents, because her parents were going through a messy divorce. And Dan decides, Aunt's single. She has, she works really hard, provide everything she needs for Misuzu. And of course, when you watch the beginning of this anime, she's so distant. And, she feels like, you look at her like, why you're not taking care of this girl? This girl's still young. Why you're just working, not paying attention to her? Then eventually, I kind of love how the character development later on when we get to the rest of the story, where she suddenly realizes she becomes like a mother figure, that she becomes like a nurturer, that she wants to take care of her. And it makes you kind of root for Haruko to finally, realize man, it took you this long to realize that, hey, that Mizuzu's a very important part of your life. So that's something that, even she learns. It kind of shows like she becomes kind of like the heart of the show. And of course, um, we are taken back to the past where pretty much the story kind of jumps back and forth. Of course, we're introduced to the puppeteer where he's able to make a puppets move. He introduces Misuzu, that he ends up living with them for a little bit while Misuzu still goes to school. There's people that she integrates into town. Of course, like a little bit later on in the episodes to come, we get a brief little look at the past and how this curse affects Misuzu. It's called the Air and Summer arc. Pretty much Kana is supposedly the last winged girl, and her devastating loneliness explains why Mizuzu is cursed. She's basically we find out she's a reincarnation of this girl, and pretty much we hear from Kana that I have wings, but I cannot fly where I want to go. So that's like, it kind of explains a little bit about how this curse happens and how does that have any relation to Mizuzu's condition. Talking about the visuals themselves, I mean, honestly, pretty much Kyo Anime's quality, you've seen Violet Evergarden, and that's one of their biggest hits that I do enjoy. It's the soundtrack itself, even the opening theme, Toru no Yuta, it has a profound look of loneliness and sacrifice that song makes you sad. The pacing overall, I feel it's kind of slow. Because it kind of has a confusion, but like I said, this is like based on a visual novel, so they tried their best to find the best possible choices because that was the source material of the story. So they try to find somewhat kind of like, maybe you have to go back and play the visual novel to see how the story will play out. Versus, adapting that into an anime is kind of hard. Because the endings are kind of weird for the characters because you get attached to these characters and then some things happen. Like Yuto ends up becoming a crow towards the end named Sora, who still watches over her. And it's kind of funny that Mizuzu starts having a breakdown where she cannot walk anymore. She cannot remember people. And Haruko starts, at first she's distant. And eventually she gets to the point where it's just Haruko trying her best to take care of Mizuzu. And to the point where Mizuzu's dad comes back and tries to claim custody of Mizuzu. And then you see Haruko, kind of like, why you're back? You didn't want her in your life. And then eventually it's like a battle of wills with Haruko because she decides, what? She says in this line, which is kind of sweet, that she says, I'll be able to live as a mother. Until then, you can't leave Mizuzu. I won't let you go. So she starts to like, decides to pretty much, after everything she's been through, after taking care of her, and it's like, it's very, I would say, slow. Like I said, the pacing is slow, but it's very slow character development. But overall, the visuals are great. I love the bright full colors and just the relationship between Mizuzu and Haruko because, like I said, it started as this and eventually became a mother-daughter to the point where Haruko's like, I can't imagine my life without this girl. She's kind of like my daughter. I had done everything for her. Her parents going through a divorce are not even there as long, and now the dad decides to come back to her life, and it's like, dude, it's like, why are you here? You just want her because of the custody. But it's like you try to question, Haruko's like child raising abilities, but you saw that Haruko did whatever he can to keep Mizuzu to the point Mizuzu ends up remembering her and to the point where she ends up walking and actually, goes towards her. Then Yukito, we got attached to you. Another thing I didn't like enjoy too much of this was the fact that Yukito, we know this guy is a puppeteer, and eventually he becomes a crow. So most of the time, he's just calling, but you hear his inner monologue, but you can tell he's still there. So he becomes kind of like the audience. He becomes the viewer of the audience. So it's like the crow's always following around, but at the same time, it feels like he's like a guardian. So he's watching over both of them. So it ends up going from those streets down to just the two. Then you see other characters supporting characters, which really don't really get too much talk to. I mean, you have this older sister and younger sister. They run a veterinarian shop, and it's like, it's like I said, it's a very confusing kind of story unless you played the novel itself. But overall, I mean, just that final scene where, like that quote came from, and it shows like all this building up to eventually Haruko accepting that, hey, I'm actually Mizuzu's mother. I'm more of a mother than what her actual mother was. Because you found out the mother passed away and the dad was fighting for the custody. So it's like it shows how much, it plays with your emotions. It makes you like first you're laughing, there's some comedic thing, summertime anime, but eventually does tug at your emotional heartstrings. It does make you want to cry, it makes you want to root for Haruko. But does this anime in general belong on the anime bucket list poster? And of course, do I feel? I think it does. It absolutely does. Kind of. I mean, yeah, the dialogue's kind of dated because you got to think this was like 2005, so this was about 20 years ago when this anime was released. But structurally is messy because, like I said, it jumps over a place like it jumps from two different arcs. But like I said, it's a visual novel, so the visual novel source it jumps to different arcs, and because it takes you to the summer festival, then to the past, and it's like now this thing where you get as a crow, and now it's not to Haruka and Misuzu trying to come to terms with their own like illness, where Misuzu coming down with her illness, and the curse, of course, Haruko questioning should stay as the mother. So it jumps around, but does kind of set the standard like for like the crying game kind of genre for visual novels. Like it makes you want to cry because it has that emotional payoff after this whole pacing and structuring mess. Um, and like I said, it does belong on here. It's like one of the things it was on this poster. Like it does deserve to be on this bucket list, and it's something I definitely do recommend you guys definitely check it out. It's something that it could be something down the line where there's a lot of emotional anime out there. I feel this is like it belongs up there. I mean, it's like I said, there's Planet is another example. There's a lot of anime out there that does play your heartstrings and makes you feel emotionally attached to these characters, and you want them to succeed. You want them to get over that emotional burden, and you wait for that payoff so they finally succeed. So believe me, like I said, the dialogue's kind of dated. But it's cute animation. So you enjoy like anime like Violet Evergarden, you'll definitely enjoy Air. Fortunately, I had to go through third-party means to find the anime because it's not streaming on any major platform. Maybe you can find it on YouTube. I wouldn't be surprised you'll find like clips of episodes on YouTube where you get a chance. Take an opportunity to check out Air. It's like I said, if you're lucky, they do have the visual novel available on Steam. Maybe you can find it, play it, play that. Go back and watch the anime and see the choices you made in that visual novel does have a little to no effect on the main story of the anime. Because like I said, it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of hard to translate when it comes from a game to a media because it's like, these visual novels are sometimes you play the narrative, you make certain choices to move along the story. So like I said, it's very enjoyable. It does hold up a little bit animation wise. It is a little dated. They had the big eye type of facial structure. So that's like you'll see the art style is with the big eyes type of thing. But overall, it is enjoyable. It's a good watch. It's not that many episodes for it. Definitely something I do recommend watch. You can watch it with your kids. There's no like fan servicey thing, but it does play emotion. It does play with your emotions. So thank you so much for joining me on this first episode of the Anime Bucket Quest. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram at the franchise. You can check this episode out again on YouTube at youtube.com/at Anime Bucket Quest. Make sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends. And if you're like driving, you want to hear the audio version, you can find episodes of this show on Spotify and many more of your audio platforms. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'll see you guys again next time as we go into the next anime on our bucket list, which is My Goddess. So thank you so much. Take care, geek on, and watch anime.